Hi, and welcome to Night Clerk Radio. This is episode 55, Climatewave. This time for real. We're actually talking about the actual genre of Climatewave. Not nature wave, but Climatewave, which we will explain the difference in just a second. But in our Patreon bonus episodes, there's the quick little announcement. We're not going to have a May bonus episode, but we will catch up and have 2 bonus episodes in June. So if you're a patron, please hang in there. Of course, the Discord will still be active. But we're going to have twice as much. But so it'll all even out. That's the important thing.
Yeah, but it'll be an extra fun double episode because the whole reason for the delay is that I have to travel a bunch in the back half of May for work/personal reasons. And I'm going to be in Springfield. So we're actually going to record that bonus episode in person.
Yeah.
But the downside of that is then I have to wait till I get home to post it. So
a double-edged sword, I guess you could say.
That's right. I would say that.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about Climatewave. So to describe Climatewave, it is essentially Weather Channel music, but for the world. Other countries perhaps were inspired by the American Weather Channel and launched their own weather channels with similar genres of music. And this is kind of like a signal wave variant, I guess you could say. It is a very plunderphonics focused genre, obviously.
Oh yeah.
You taking this music and sort of adding some lo-fi elements to it, some hiss, some static, but in some cases doing a lot more. So it could actually, in one of the albums, it gets very intense actually. So I really like the genre just to see, what it's like, to get a sense of, I recognize the Weather Channel music. I know it very well, but to hear what was happening in the weather in Italy or Germany or any number of other places. I haven't found any Australian Climatewave, but maybe I just haven't looked enough. So perhaps I should do that at some point. Yeah, Berks, any thoughts?
I was thinking about Climatewave because it's, in my mind, adjacent to other easy listening music type genres. So like corporate wave, corporate utopia type stuff, or not as pop songy as Mallsoft, but kind of has the same idea, which is I realized, because I really like listening to all these albums and even the intense, depressing stuff. And at least 2 of them are like music that's not meant to be heard. I think that's a phrase we've used before when talking about this type of stuff. Like, it's just supposed to be there while you see whether or not it's raining today. And I really like that. And that really like branched out into realizing how much I like that in all media, because I got to thinking about not music media and like bad movies. Right. And I've always talked about like sometimes bad movies are weird because like the meta level, how does this get made? What is happening here? Whatever. But another part of it is like, I like movies that kind of feel like you were never supposed to see them. Not because they're like transgressive or whatever, but because you're just not supposed to scroll that deep in Tubi until you hit these types of films. And this is just like some guy's weird Croatian tax dodge to shoot a movie in Eastern Europe, and you're never supposed to watch it. It's just supposed to rot.
Or it's supposed to be like a channel needed this programming. We need something for the Christmas special. God, throw something together. Or we need something for Halloween. And it's ephemeral. And the ephemeral cultural products are the most truthful. There's no artifice. There's no illusions of being like something long lasting. It is made to fill a very specific need at a very specific time and then totally discarded. So it reflects the true nature of the culture at that time. There's no deception or delusion, like when Hollywood makes a meaningful art film, it's very structured and very poised, and it's very trying to make the message that is correct for the time. But like it's, and you can tell that it's fake, but like it doesn't show what people were really thinking. It's what they wanted you to think that they were thinking, I think. So
yeah, exactly. And much like music, it used to be the case that these were made but just lost to time.
Mm-hmm.
And now, kind of due to digital archiving and people being interested in that, they're kind of back. And that's what I think I really like about this. I mean, the Climatewave stuff is interesting. It's largely just an excuse for your sample base for, like you said, plunderphonics, signal wave, broken transmission-y type stuff. But the music that ends up there is really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like, and to think about music, like people think, oh, well, this music represented this period of time. You know, the Beatles represented the 60s and disco represented the 70s and like, and so on. And so, you know, Phil Collins represented the 80s, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Michael Jackson. I don't know.
Michael Jackson. Yeah, probably Michael Jackson more than Phil Collins. But like, this is really the music of the 80s, because this is like per hour listened to. This stuff was listened to more than Michael Jackson, and it slipped into people's subconscious. But yeah, it was not meant to be a message. It was not meant to be anything special. It was just meant to fill a need at a particular time. And then, yeah. So
you just need noise underneath the dude reading temperatures.
Yeah. A pleasant noise.
A pleasant noise. That's right.
Inoffensive noise. But now it's sort of recontextualized as this like ghost from our past haunting us, which is, hey, it's kind of like our thing here.
That's true. I guess it is like doubly, not to drag out this intro too much, but it is doubly archaic too, because I just have a little temperature thing on my phone.
Yeah.
And I look and I go, oh, it's 49 outside right now.
Yeah. Like I don't even have cable TV. I mean, I'm sure there still is a weather channel. When I go to the gym, I've seen the weather channel before, like, but they have actual TV shows now. And so they don't even have the 24/7, you know, calming music and computer generated weather reports. So like, what's even the fucking point having this actual content? Fucking
what
disgusting.
Are we even doing here?
Yeah. Tornado stories. I don't need that shit. Yeah.
Tell you what we're doing. We're listening to 3 albums today, so we should probably get started.
Hell yeah.
So that was a little bit from track 1 off our first album, Телетextо еспециал by Kratzwerk, a German vaporwave artist who, looking through their stuff, they have like 70 albums on Bandcamp. It seems to be a wide range of broken transmissions, plunderphonics, signal wave, but really not focusing on a single source or a single subgenre, but kind of everything. They have news, like German advertisements and stuff. They even have one album that's based off like phone sex ads, I think.
Nice.
So all those like call 1-800 to chat with blah, 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 blah. So this is, I believe, their most recent album. It's from March of this year, and it is Climatewave. I picked it because I said at the end of the last episode that we had already talked about the Weather Channel, and I thought that there's like so much focus on Japanese samples that I just wanted to find something else. And I sort of picked this because the album cover is the map of South America. So I was like, oh, cool, South American. But it is a German artist. At least they're flagged as being from Germany. I don't know. Maybe they have some South American heritage. But these samples, though, are all kind of in that like semi-Latin inspired. And so like you heard, there's sort of that little syncopated ostinato in that opening track, that like that type of stuff is very, very through Latin and Mexico and Central America. I don't want to say specific style because it's extremely particular, that actual ostinato, whether or not you're in like bossa nova or samba or cumbia or something like that. So, but it kind of got me thinking, because that sort of trails off quickly in the album, and it's a good listen, but it kind of just becomes music, which is the whole point of the genre. And I think like my broad statement about this album is it made me want to research more if the way, and I know we've talked about this on the show, the way in which that Latin music, especially bossa nova, was like heavily gentrified as lounge music in like the 60s and 70s. If that sort of planted the seed of what became easy listening music in the 80s and 90s. And then we've like looped back around.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I'm thinking of that Adam Neely video about the girl from Ipanema. And that sounds, I think there's a lot of evidence to support that theory.
I don't know. I was thinking because it very quickly just becomes, I don't want to say generic because that's not right, but it is like primo, just elevator music. It's great. It's exactly what you want out of the genre. So I really liked it. I just was thinking like, there's not as much differentiation here after a while. I would love to know what some of the samples are because a lot of the track names are a year.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was really interesting. And it's not like in any chronological order, which I also found interesting. It's, it jumps around backwards and forwards, mostly in the 80s and 90s, but like not always. There's like a 1976 track, like, which is very, it was a very popular song at the discotheque, is what I want to say.
Yeah, that's actually one that stood out to me. So I'm going to play a little bit from it right here. So you can hear buried. That's almost the whole track. It's only a minute track, but you can hear buried under it. Yeah. Like that disco wah guitar stuff. And I was like, are we doing it? Are we calling it 1976 because you found this? And you just was like, oh, that's the 70s. Like we were saying, genres are defined by their decades. Or is it a sample from a broadcast from 1976? Yeah. And they're playing it like, so like the history of it is interesting through all these tracks, but it is, each one is a good like encapsulation of that year kind of to me.
Okay. Yeah.
The early 90s ones are kind of samey because like that tail end of the 90s, like you didn't really hit the 90s at that point. Like it was still figuring itself out culturally, but like the one that's 1986 sounds like 80s lounge music to me. The 90s ones sound 90s to me, I guess. Like almost, I don't know. I can't think of a better word for it. So like, I'm trying not to say Twin Peaks. Fuck. But there's just like, it's just interesting. Yeah. It's just like channel surfing through time.
Yeah. There's a lot of different styles in this too, not just the disco, but like track 3 kind of like when track 3 started, kind of felt like a bit of a country at the very beginning, then kind of switched to piano lounge music with like a bit of harmonica. And track 10 was very like pensive and cosmic kind of, I don't know. It's overall, this is like a, just chill out, man. Just be relaxed. Like watch the weather. Everything's going to be fine. Like, yeah, it's very representative, I think, of what Climatewave is trying to do.
Like some other stuff that's out there, 2 other thoughts I had, which number one is this album totally got me with the like, oh, do I remember this or don't I?
Oh yeah.
Vibe that you get from some of this. So track 3, Ttexto, has a melody in it. And like, I can't tell if I know it or if it's just like hyper generic elevator music melody. And it was driving me crazy. That was it. And then I guess the other thing I thought about this album, and I don't know why, it's just in my notes and I'm not sure what exactly inspired it. Probably just listening to all this stuff over and over and over again, is how many areas of my life I hear this kind of inoffensive music now. And that's because like it's in the background of this, ads, certain video games. I think I make a reference on our next album in my notes to like Microsoft Flight Simulator, which has extremely elevator menu music pumped into offices. I don't know. I just was like, man, I hear this stuff everywhere now. And it was kind of like, I don't know. I think just listening to all these albums over and over again for the last week kind of broke me.
Oh, no. Overdosed on Climatewave.
I overdosed on music.
Damn.
It's brutal.
Well, we should move on to our second album.
Sure. Promise I don't always pick the first track as the first sample for every album, but it did work out that way for both of these albums. That was track 1, Rain News 24 from *ｍෙτεoρολογιcα 2 by Τελε+1, another European-based vaporwave artist who also does signal wave, plunderphonics, broken transmission type stuff. Looking through their Bandcamp, the bulk of the work is Italian television shows, commercials, media. They also have one very good album that is just called Tetris CDI. It's like Tetris for the CDI system, which is like a long forgotten video game system. And the liner notes for it are just, I found a VHS of someone playing Tetris on the CDI. And I think it's just that ripped out. So it's real classic, like broken transmission. Just like, here's a VHS I've pulled out for you.
Yeah, I noticed that the same artist, Tel+1, currently right now on the Vaporwave subreddit, their newest album is doing quite well. 146 upvotes as when I'm looking at Canal Meteo. That was released 2 days ago. But yeah, so like they're getting popular. We're
good for them, because I thought this album was really, really good. I think it's really interesting. So the premise of these are that it is weather forecasts, but throughout Europe and Russia. But you have to prove to me that the sample came from that part of Russia.
Damn.
So this album has a variety of parts I really liked. So tracks that stood out to me, because we are doing 3 albums, so I guess we're going through these a little faster, and they're also pretty short.
Yeah, both of these albums, these first 2 albums, are like 20 minutes long.
If that, yeah, they're just a few tracks, just a few minutes each, which is why we're doing 2 of them, which also makes them very easy to sample and enjoy. And both albums have got me really excited about these independent artists, each of their discographies. So it's definitely something I want to go back through, because if it's like this, it's very good for me to work to.
And they have like, Tel+1 has like over a dozen albums already out. So just rolling it out.
So highlights for me are track 2, France 24, because it has these like funky syncopated like Rhodes keys going on under them, which I really like. I really like the timbre of those Rhodes keys. They're one of my favorite instruments. I really liked Macedonia, which is track 4, because it's got little synth trumpet. I assume they're synth, or just, the processing makes them sound synth, but it's got these little trumpet stings. Very powerful, like news energy, like type trumpet work, which I don't know, just stood out to me as fun. Like I kind of pay attention to that type of stuff. And then the other one is this track, Monte Carlo. I loved this track. Well, Tel Monte Carlo is the full name, but Monte Carlo is the country we're focusing on. I loved it because, man, it's just some like Airwolf Knight Rider shit. It's got that like those like pulsing outrun synths.
Yeah, good vibes. Yeah.
Like good vibes and just, some little synth lead over them.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful amount of static. Yeah, it just feels like I've busted out an old 8th generation VHS of Knight Rider.
Mm-hmm. I really like track 12, Pronostico, because of the little sampled, I guess, commercial or narration. It's someone talking in Italian. Like, I assume it's Italian. and it like all of these tracks have that signal wave, like lo-fi static / hiss. Makes it sound like, like a 5th generation VHS copy of a copy. And it's, I don't know. I like those little touches to make it like, it's not just pulling the music from these things. It's also the ephemeral stuff, like the narration in the commercials and all the other stuff. There's a lot of little bits in both of these albums that add a little to that, little ending beeps, weird transition between tracks. It's nice.
No, I think that's a good point. And something I was going to say, but maybe you've changed my mind indirectly, is that one thing I thought was interesting about Climatewave compared to other signal wave stuff we've done is that even though that's there, it still feels like it focuses much less on that. It has, the third album has 2 tracks that make that a very inaccurate statement.
Yeah.
But both of these, they do have little bits of that type of ephemera or samples of people talking. But it's kind of interesting that there's not more of that. I guess that's the one thing. That's not a criticism. It's just a curiosity that didn't become as much a focus, because you think about the broken transmission signal wave aspect of it. It doesn't. What am I trying to say? I guess I would associate that sort of broadcasting part with part of that signal wave. And it's kind of nice that it's not there, because it actually makes it much more generatively listenable. I don't really have a point. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you for indulging me.
Yeah. I mean, different, even within the same genre, different artists can have different like goals and what they're trying to do, whether it's trying to capture in, a moment of time, this ephemeral feeling of watching the Weather Channel in Milan or Germany or wherever, or the next album, which has got a very different intent. So
Wait, does it?
That is track 4, Energy Accident, from 9.0 Underwater Megathrust by Radioactive High Five. Some of that is in Japanese, but thanks to Google Translate, I was able to translate the album and artist name. Yeah, so this album is intense. I would put a listener warning on that. This album is not something to listen to and dwell on if you're in a bad place, because this is about the 2011 tsunami in Fukushima, the national tragedy, which has, recently I read a book by Hideo Kojima called The Creative Gene, and he mentions the tsunami multiple times. It obviously deeply affected him, and like everything I've read is that it was like, this album is not a perfect comparison to News at 11, but it is sort of the News at 11 for Climatewave. Like it is.
It's trying to process a national tragedy through art.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think I someone recently linked to this old Calvin and Hobbes cartoon about how, Calvin talking about how punk and rock have become like corporate and sold out and used in advertisements. Mm-hmm. And so the way he's going to rebel is to listen to elevator music real quiet. Mm-hmm. And in a way, it is using an art form that, older people or, the previous generation would view as, why are you listening to that? And using it to, process like rage and just grief and trauma over a tragedy. I mean, and again, it's about that duality of comfort and more than anxiety, like outright terror. Mm-hmm. It's that. So this album begins with track 1 is very standard kind of Climatewave. Like this clearly sounds like Japanese Weather Channel kind of music, urban environment.
Which it's interesting because it does set up this calm mood because it does have instrumentation. I really like shakuhachi and shamisen. Mm-hmm. So like, which I'm pretty sure there might be synth versions of them, but I'm pretty sure that's what the instruments are supposed to be.
Yeah.
A little bit of synth. So like, I was just not ready for track 2.
Yeah. Track 2 is labeled NHK Tsunami Warning. And so it has more Weather Channel music, but you have these layered voices on it, speaking in Japanese. And it's kind of, for me, adding this kind of sense of dread, this sort of like, like when something bad is happening, but your brain hasn't processed it yet. So you're just kind of paralyzed. Like, this is something I've heard about, but it's actually happening to me. It is happening right now. It is something, and so it's kind of that kind of dread, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting because there's a few aspects of it. For anybody that doesn't know, NHK is Japanese Broadcasting Corporation. It's like their media outlet. Mm-hmm. So the samples, the voiceover is somebody reading out what's on the title, the tsunami warnings of like, we expect waves in this prefecture, and this prefecture, and this prefecture. And for me as a listener, the reading, the voice is in Japanese, and then there's like a disembodied like auto translation over it. Mm-hmm. That added a whole extra bit of eeriness. But yeah, it is somebody saying like a warning of a thing that 10 years later was really, 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 really bad. Mm-hmm. And like, it's super effective. It's got the same effect as, like you made the News at 11 comparison, all the little news clips that all stop right before. It's interesting.
Yeah. And then, we have more like Climatewave kind of music for like tracks 3 and 4. Like track 4, as you listen, it sounds like a JRPG like track, like, like you're in a dungeon on the moon, like it's, and so it kind of lulls, this album's kind of lulling you. Okay. Yeah. The warning's been there, but yeah, we're just gonna, everything's normal. Mm-hmm. Everything's fine. And then track 5, there's this undercurrent of crowd sounds that add to the tension, and the ending is very chaotic. Let's listen to that. And track 6 is Sounds of the Disaster. It's like a minute long, and it is extremely hard to listen to. It's
rough. It is just field recordings, I think.
Yeah. Of the actual disaster. There's a child crying for their father. It's hard. It hit me like a brick. Like it is. I would not, again, this album is art, but it is not easy art in that regard. So it is challenging to listen to. And I'm not going to be sampling it for this because, oof. Mm-hmm. But track 7 is a It is in Japanese, but it's called Energy Accident Morning, which makes sense. Yeah, because it's these Buddhist chants with this meditative like synth music.
Yeah, big wide organs, like very wide voicings.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like the day after. And then track 8, the final track, is this like lo-fi like organ music. Very funerary in nature, it felt to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I feel kind of bad saying it given the subject matter of the album, but the last track I thought sounded like old school dungeon synth.
I mean, it's like this it's organ, but it's not like real organ. It's like synthesized organ.
Yeah. It's like that synth timbre and like just very high pitched and just like the way the voicing works through the melody just reminded me of early dungeon synth. It was just unexpected, which I guess describes the whole album.
Yeah. Yeah. This is now I've been aware of actually for years now. It is something people have talked about it quite a bit in vaporwave subreddits. It's often brought up. It's been re-released on vinyl and cassette, and it came out. This album came out originally in 2015, 4 years after the accident, after the tragedy. And it like I said, it's in some ways a counterpoint to News at 11, and using the banality of this music and these systems, this ephemeral, automated warning systems, and because this is what people hear. They don't hear dramatic cinematic music. Like in a movie recreation of this same tragedy, you would have orchestral swelling as like all this other sad violin music and things for
of course.
Yeah. But like people aren't listening to that. This is what they actually hear. This is like the actual reality of it. And that makes it far more intense than the most, the saddest adagio for strings you could do, when you put that on there, that's just kind of abstracting it. This is for far more raw, and just this person, obviously, I could feel their pain in a very real sense. Like this is a person who still, it seems like they're really fucked up by this tragedy. So yeah, it's art. Like, yeah, this is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I knew as soon as we did it, like I had to do this album. Like, oh yeah, that is kind of it. And I'm not going to look forward to it because.
Yeah, I really am glad I listened to it. I was not aware of it. So
yeah,
you got me on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's an album I recommend if you're in a good place of mind. Don't listen to it if you're feeling blue, I think maybe, unless that helps you process the blues like it is.
Yep. Just know what you're getting.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Our next episode, we're only going to review one album instead of 3, but it's 100 tracks long.
Yeah.
Of Mallsoft.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It'll be interesting. So it is the 100 tracks over 5.5 hours of Mallsoft. So yay. And I think it's all from one artist, isn't it?
Yeah, the album we're doing is Endless Mall.
Yeah,
by Echo.
That's it. And yeah, I'm very curious about it. Please join our Patreon if you want to support this podcast. Our Patreon. We do have, on average, one bonus episode a month for our patrons. We have a backlog already, so if you're joining now, you'll have enough to listen to for May to get through to June. And we also have a Discord. And we're working on some other things that we'll have for our patrons. And it also keeps this podcast going. But we are on at Twitter for right now, at Night Clerk Radio. I'm at Ross Payton. Burke is at Burke McBurkinson. We have a website that is under our control. No one's buying that out, nightclerkradio.com. We have a Facebook page where I post links to new episodes. And please don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever you use to listen to podcasts. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell everyone about Night Clerk Radio. We'll talk to you later. Bye.